And what's going on, guys? Good evening. This is Uche and Njoku. Welcome to Financial Literacy Matters. I have to apologize for being 5 minutes late. For whatever reason, the stream wouldn't come on, so I had to kind of shut down everything and start from scratch again. Today's been one of those days. If you are alive right now, you have a pulse, you know today's been one of those days. So right now I'm hoping that I'm getting audio. Um, I see that I am. Right now I'm live on YouTube, and I believe I'm live on Facebook as well, Twitter, through Periscope, Twitch, and then my various pages on Facebook. So if you are hearing me right now, you're able to um, drop me a line in the comments, letting me know that you can hear me. If you, especially if you're on Facebook, I know definitely on YouTube. I'm streaming on YouTube, but Facebook, I'm not quite sure right now. I don't know what's going on, but you know what though? It's okay because at the end of the day, even if this doesn't go through to the universe, it's being recorded and I will upload it. Um, Today's been one of those days, so let me just go ahead and let's go ahead and hopefully this starts the right way. Then we can start. Thank you to my executive producer, Rhea Eats World, and also my beautiful wife for letting me know that I am on and it sounds good. So thank you so much for that. Um, so as you know, we've been doing we started a series last week around The Richest Man in Babylon, a book by George S. Clason. And it's all around financial literacy and building wealth. And tonight would have been easy for me to just log on and say, let's go to part two. But I have to say something really quick because this is on my mind, and I'm pretty sure it's on everyone's mind. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not expecting a lot of people to show up tonight because today has just been one of those days. But for me, I made a commitment to be on this journey of continuing to present this content and the various content on this channel, the Njoku School channel, and so I'm here. But before I move on, I got to say this. Today's been a crazy day. You know, like the whole entire day I had, you know, we're all, I'm working remotely. So, you know, a lot of us are working remotely. And as you guys know, I am a high school principal in New York City. And I'm doing my meetings, meeting with students, staff. And in the background, I have the TV playing, you know, it's nice and low so I can pay attention to what's going on in the news, especially today with the certification by the House and the Senate of the new presidency. Of course, the objections happens with the state of Arizona, and then I take a little quick break to watch what's going on, and literally just felt like in the midst of that, it was just that quickly. The camera switched over to people like bum rushing the Capitol, and this is a building I've been in quite a few times. Luckily, I've been in there 3 times, three tours, and twice as a private citizen, once as a private citizen with students from my previous school. And it's an amazing space, but it's also a very sacred space, especially when you talk about government, you talk about America, you talk about all these different things. And then you saw these people bum rush the place, and I'm not even going to get into the details, but it was just a heartbreaking thing to see, especially being black in America and recognizing that at least remembering that this past summer there was a lot of protests around the death of George Floyd and all the other black and brown people that were killed by police. And what broke my heart is like, you know, watching this and of course everybody's talking about it's flowing through social media. I'm seeing these people who are being called protesters, you know, literally breaking their way into the Capitol building. And it's so serious that they have to evacuate congressmen and senators and move them to secure locations. The vice president had to be moved to a secure location. But you're watching all these feeds because thank God for cell phones, you know. I don't know if to say thank God for cell phones or not for cell phones, but people are recording themselves as they're going through these spaces. And I'm watching this, and one of the feeds that I watch is people giving each other actually no, the protesters, not rioters, not terrorists, you know, these protests are giving police officers high fives. as they're walking in to Capitol Hill, to the Capitol building, and as they're breaking into people's offices and throwing their feet on people's tables and sitting in, like, I mean, it's like, do I look at it as this? And this is probably bad comparisons, but this is how I see it. When you have a sacred space, I don't know, my parents' bedroom, daddy's car, the church, the pulpit, like, all these different spaces, that there's some kind of reverence to be in that space. But what I saw today was disgusting, but then what made it worse is the fact that if these people were black and brown that did this, would it have ended the way it ended? And that's what's heartbreaking. And I will be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I really considered not doing tonight's episode, or at least not to continue with this series tonight. Just pushing it to next night to next time. But then something popped into my head. This is not just about being rich. Even though the book is called The Richest Man in Babylon, it has nothing to do with being rich. It has everything to do with security. Being in a place in your life for yourself, for your family, for your future generations, where they're secure and they're insulated as much as possible from these spaces that are in complete violation of our human rights, of our being. And the reality is, this is why this is so important. This is why it's so important that we teach our children financial literacy. But not just financial literacy, but financial skills. Because again, it's not about being rich. It's about security. So, I just wanted to say that, and let's get into this, because I'm feeling myself getting hot right now. So let's get into this, and continue with part 2 of the series on building wealth, and we're doing it based on the book The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. So let me go ahead and actually go ahead and switch screens here. And okay, see this. I knew this was going to happen. Part of this whole issue today. I'm going to do it manually, so not a problem. So please, before we start, do me a favor. Do me a huge favor. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. This really helps the algorithm, and you guys have been doing that. If you're new here this evening, please do that for me, because what it does is this is really how this content gets out there, and the YouTube algorithm pumps it out there. And again, I do this not because there's some great benefit for me. It's really because there's a great benefit for me. I'm a teacher by heart, and I feel good when I know I'm helping my community and putting things out there that can help our children as well. So this content is not just for our students and our kids, it's for the whole entire family and community. And I guarantee you're going to get something out of this tonight that's going to make you really rethink how you move financially. So, backtracking. Part 1, you were introduced to some characters. First of all, part 1, we talked about Babylon. Who's Babylon? What's Babylon? A lot of us know Babylon from the Bible as a place that was not such a good place for the people who are children of God. But there were some people who actually benefited from being there. There was a big impact by people like Daniel and people of that nature who were in Babylon. But we're going to talk about Babylon as a civilization. It was a very wealthy civilization. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world was in Babylon, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. These people, like literally, built an empire that was unseen. It no longer exists, but there was enough documentation to show that they were clearly the most rich, the most powerful, most richest nation at the time. So that's the setting of the story. Now, the story starts off introducing you to a gentleman named Ben Sear. Ben Sear is going through it. His boy Kobe comes through. They're both talking about their lives, money, and the issues they're going through. And they're like, we got all the education in the world, we have all the skill, but we're living paycheck to paycheck. And then they talk about how this is really impacting their mental state. What does it mean for their family, for their children? And Kobe suggests, listen, our boy that we went to school with, Arkad, he's right now the richest man in Babylon. And this dude's a good dude. And I'm sure if we go over there and ask him, he got to tell us what he did, how he got to that point. And this is where we continue with the story. So at this point in time, Ben Sear and Kobe and they gather a couple of their friends. They head out to go find Arkad, but they know where he's at, and they're going to go over there and talk to him and see if they can convince him to tell him what his secret was. So for those of you who are new, in the description, I have actually added a link to the actual book. So if you want to buy the book is cheap. You can find that book for dumb cheap, for like $4 or $5. It's a really old book. It's been around for a while, so it's not something that's hard to find. But however, in the link in this description of this video, you will on YouTube you will find the link for the actual book there for free. I found it online. I actually tapped it up PDF, and I found it, and I'm sharing it with you. So let's go to let's talk about our boy Arkad. So here's Arkad. So for those of you who are new, I'm using images of modern day people because I'm a visual learner. So so if you notice this first picture here, this is supposed to be Arkad. So he's an older man, he's an older gentleman, he's clearly successful, doing well with himself. So we're gonna go back to the story of Arkad. So they go to Arkad, and Arkad decides to tell him his story, what happened. So the story starts off with Arkad as a young man. So as a young man, he wanted the same thing everybody wants. You know, I want to go out there and conquer the world, make some money, be comfortable, you know, just have all the good things that everybody else has. You know, why do I have to suffer? So that was his goal in life. He wasn't quite sure how he was going to get there. He just knew that's what he wanted. So his first job was he worked as a scribe. So, and I mean, first of all, a scribe is, I would say this, it's like a secretary. Okay, so he worked in the Hall of Records. So it's like working in City Hall. And his job was, he was the guy when you go to the Hall of Records and you're like, yeah, I'm trying to get a copy of my title. The dude who just comes to you, fill out this form, you know, punches it and say, come back in 2 days, we'll have it for you. That was him. But this is a time when there was no paper. So any records that you needed had to be literally carved into mud plates and then baked and hardened. Then you would have this little 6x6 tiles. And this was the records. This is before paper. How do we know this? Archaeologists have found those tiles. We have those tiles in museums, so we know, that that's how they kept their records. So this is what he did. So he on the other thing too, when he noticed this job is that the quicker he worked, the more money he made. So he was actually kind of good at his job. He was, out there doing what he had to do to make that money, So he was working fast, filling out if he had an 8-hour shift, I'm assuming he had 8-hour shifts, probably not. He was working as fast as possible. So he knew the more work that I did, the more money that I would get, right? So how many of you guys are familiar with that? The more work you do, the more you should get paid. So some of us have 3 or 4 or 5 jobs because the more work we do, the more money we get paid. And that was his mentality. So one day, he's actually, before I go to that screen, one day, a customer comes in, Algamish. Algamish is a money lender, okay? So, money lender today, a banker. So, Algamish, shows up and it's like, listen, I got some records here that I need you to make copies for me. So, mind you, no copy machines, no paper. So these records had to be really carved into mud, whatever the case is, baked and prepared. So we're talking about, this is a lot of work. So Arkad says, okay, I'm going to do this. So he takes the work. But Arkad is being a little tricky. It's funny because the book doesn't really tell you that, but you get the sense that Arkad sees an opportunity. Here comes this man, and he's clearly very wealthy. He's very, he's more likely he's probably known. Arkad probably knows who he is. And rather than completing the work for him, the next time Algamish comes back to pick up the work, it's not complete. And Algamish he's upset, but time is money. He's like, yo, you said this was going to be ready, but it wasn't ready. And it's to the point where Arkad says, I could tell that if I wasn't working for the Hall of Records, if I didn't have this government job, this man would probably taking me outside and whip my butt. Like, he was that angry. But I took an opportunity. He took the opportunity to say, listen, sir, I do apologize. That's on me. Listen, I guarantee you I'll have everything ready for you by tomorrow. So the man's looking at him like, listen, you had a couple of days and you barely got anything done. So you're trying to tell me you're going to get what you couldn't do in a few days, or you're going to get it done in one night. He said, sir, I promise you. However, I want to make a deal with you. Alchemist just like, well, okay, you want to make a deal? Okay, what's the deal? If I get this done for you by tomorrow, when you walk in here, I'm asking of you to tell me how you became so wealthy. So Alchemist is like, you know what? Okay. All right. Bet. Tomorrow, if I get here and you have everything ready for me, we'll have that conversation. So, of course, Alchemist leaves, and Arkad, he spends the whole night working, And mind you, this we didn't have lights. They didn't have lights then. We're talking about oils and oil wicks and everything else and closed spaces. So in the book, he describes that it was so much work, and he worked through the night, and then the fumes from the lamps were burning his eyes, burning his lungs. It was but he's like, yo, this is an opportunity. So he gets it done. So the next day, Arkad comes back and he's like, all right, sir, it's all done. And Alchemist is like, okay. My word is my bond. So he tells him, let's start off with this. The first I'm going to tell you is to do this. All the money you make, anything you get paid, pay yourself first. I'll be more specific. Take 10% of it and set it to the side for yourself. Okay? And Arkad looks at him like, okay, dude, first of all, I don't even make enough money, I'm barely making it. So you want me to take 10% of what I'm making and put it to the side and do what with it? Because how am I going to cover the rest of my bills? He was like, listen, this is what I'm asking you to do. Take 10% of it, put it to the side. Okay? And he said, what's going to happen is, how much money you think you're going to have by the end of the year if you take 10%, put it to the side? He tells him like, yo, if I take, I'm going to have, pretty much what I make in a portion of time, I'll have it at the end of the year sitting there. And he's like, exactly. So then you have the beginnings of your wealth right there. So Arkad thinks about it. He's like, okay, but I'm still not getting it. So then I'll explain something to him. He says, you need to make your money a slave to you. Okay? So that 10% you're saving, when you have enough of it, you can put into something where it makes more money. Then the money it makes more money. So the money is slave to you, and you now own the money. It's children, it's children's children, and it's children's children. So Arkad is like, okay, dude, you're bugging. But you know what? I'm going to try this. So he starts saving, 10%. He said before you knew it, he was like, wait a minute, I'm not even missing that 10%. But it feels really good to see that 10% sitting there, And what did he do? There was some big purchase came up, something he wanted, he saw, he spent that money. And then he realized, probably not a good idea, right? That money should have been there. So he had to start from scratch again, saving that money. And this is one of the things, as for all of us out here, when we talk about saving money, what we do a lot of times is, we don't forgive ourselves for how hard it is to build that habit. If you're not in the habit of saving money, if you're not in the habit of investing, then what happens is that 10% or whatever you put into the side is always in your face telling you, I'm here, spend me, when you should be doing is not spending it. What you should be doing is letting it be, acting like it doesn't exist, And that was something he had to develop. So he started from scratch. He was like, okay, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to save. And he did save. And he got to the point where he had a nice little pot. So think about it this way. 10%. If you're making 10,000 in a year, 10,000 in a year. Let me do my math real quick. 10,000. For the sake of, let's say 10,000. At the end of the year, $100 is 10%, right? It's 10% of 1,000. If you're spending, let's say that in a month. So If you're spending all of your money, you have nothing to sit on. If you're able to put aside that $100, eventually that 100 becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, and all of a sudden becomes something substantial. And this is what he did. He finally got that money. It became something substantial. And what happened? He was like, okay, now I got some money here. So what he did with that money was he went to his boy. His boy's name is Asmore. He's the bricklayer. So he said, Asmore, listen, I got this money. Asmore's like, you got that money? Listen, I got this business idea. Okay. So the bricklayer tells him, I can go get some jewels from this far away land, and we can get those jewels here, and we can sell them and make a profit. So, Arkad is like, okay, let's do this. And, of course, bad things happen. So Alchemist comes back, and says, hey, so what happened? He tells him the story like, listen, my boy, the bricklayer, has this idea, and he went to go buy the jewels. So Alchemist is like, so, okay. So you gave your money to a bricklayer to go buy jewelry. Okay, so tell me what happened. He says, yeah, we got it back, and it was all glass. And Alchemist told him, like, you know what? This is one of the things you need to remember. Why would you give your money to a bricklayer when we're talking about jewelry or jewels? What does he know about jewels? So he was like, if you're going to invest your money, make sure you're investing with somebody or people who are aware of that product, that thing, that environment. School yourself in that environment before you put money in there. So Arkad was like, okay, not a problem. Okay, I'm going to do better. So now he saves money for another year. Okay, it's another year. So a year later, Arkad shows up and says, okay, so how's it going? He's like, this time I saved my money, and what I did was this. I had my boy, who's Agar. I went to Agar and said, hey, Agar, I see you doing a lot of money, you're doing a lot of business, you're making shields. He's a shield maker. So he's like, yeah. He's like, so tell me more about your business. He's like, yeah, I can make more shield if I can get more material. So more of the bronze and the metals that I need. And he's like, so you know the metals you need? He's like, yeah, I know the metals I need. I know my profit margins and everything else. So he invests his money with Arkad. And he's like, I know Arkad. I've known him for a long time. He's a trustworthy dude. I know where he lives. So they will go into business together, and he makes a profit. So Alchemist comes back and says, so tell me what you've been doing. And he tells him the story. Like, I made this profit with Alchemist. He was like, nice. See, I'm telling you, you saved that money. You put it into the right place. You made a profit. So then he asked him, so what'd you do with your profits? He's like, listen, I bought me this. I got me some good food. I got me some nicer things, I earned that money, so I blessed myself. Alchemist was like, dude, you're a fool. Because you forgot what I told you. You want your money to be your slave. So when it makes money, its children becomes part of it. Then its children's becomes part of it. So if you're spending your profits, then you're back at zero. What was all that for? So Arkad is like, damn, you're right. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try this again. So now, Alchemist leaves, and it's 2 years later, and he comes back, and he's much older. He's looking older. He was already an older dude to begin with. He's looking, time's wearing on him. He comes back, and he's like, Arkad, so tell me what you've been doing. He's like, I've been doing good. Saving that money, and I'm actually putting more money to the side, and I have my money in so many different spaces, and all my profits go back into my businesses. He's like, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm doing well. I'm wealthy. I can't complain, but yeah, everything. I've built a discipline, and Alchemist sees him and says, you know what? Okay. And before I tell you what Alchemist says next, building wealth takes time, but you gotta make your mistakes. You gotta figure out things out. You gotta build your knowledge base. A lot of times we think if we buy that lottery ticket, we become wealthy. That's why a lot of people lose their wealth, because if you don't know what to do with your money, okay. A lot of people say I want to start a business, and then it doesn't work out, and then they give up because business is not for me. When they could have tried again, So Arkad kept on trying, perfecting, disciplining himself. And it's funny because from year one to from the first time until when Alchemist comes back, I think it's about 5 years before Arkad becomes, okay, yes, I got this. I'm making the money. I know what I'm doing, and I'm doing well. And then Alchemist tells him, like, you know what? I see you. Like, you've become the man that you were meant to be. And as he's getting older, Alchemist is getting older, and he's like, I've been looking for somebody who's really good at the money, who understands these financial principles to partner with, because I don't move the way I move anymore. I know things are a little bit harder for me, and I just need a good partner. And he's like, I see you. So he offers Arkad a deal, like, come work with me 50-50. You run these businesses, and what you already do with your business, you do it with my business as well. And I promise you that when I pass, I'm going to make sure you get your fair share of this business. And again, a principle to learn from that: if you put that work in, people are always watching. If you discipline yourself, you create spaces for you to be successful. And what happened was he put these things into play, and Alchemist wasn't showing up asking questions for nothing. And I wonder if there were maybe 4 or 5 or 6, 7 Arkads out there that Alchemist was investing time into, trying to figure out who would be the person who would come in as his partner. It's funny because I think there's a part of the Bible about the talents, where a master gave his slaves some talents, some money, and said, "Here, I'm going to give you this money. When they come back, tell me what you do with it." And one of them went back and invested it and made more money. Some of them went and invested a little bit, made some money. And one of the dude just was like, "Nah, man, I'm not trying to lose any of this money, so I hit it." And when his master came back, he was like, I see, this is what you gave me, I'm giving it back to you. And the master said to him, you wicked and evil servant. That is the thing here. If you're not willing to take those risks and really build yourself up, then you're being wicked. You're being wicked with your talents. You're being wicked with your gifts. And Arkad kept on trying, and finally he got it. And he came into partnership with Alchemist, and when Alchemist passed away, in his will, he gave a portion of his wealth to Arkad, and Arkad's portion plus Arkad's other businesses made him now the wealthiest man in Babylon. So again, just doing a review real quick, because I know I talk fast and I talk funny sometimes, right? So how did Arkad become wealthy? Arkad became wealthy by, number one, paying himself first. He was told, put some money to the side. Okay, 10% was given to him. At least 10% you might put to the side, and trust me, you will find a way to make everything else work. Live below your means. Remember, he started spending his money, and he was like, "No, what you need to do," Alchemist was telling him, like, you need to make sure you're living as low as possible so you can really build that money. So even when you're making profits, you don't need to touch those profits because you already have a lifestyle that you're going to maintain long enough so that when everything else starts working, then you can be a little bit more comfortable. But till that point where you have your streams of income, you got to live within a particular lifestyle. The other thing he was taught was to put his money to work. Okay, don't hide your talents. Okay, learn and figure out where can you put that money to work. In these days, you have the stock market, you have starting a business, you have different spaces you can invest your money in. And he was saying you got to put that money to work because the goal is to have your money make more money. And then have your profits compound with the principle to make more money. And that's how you build wealth. Albert Einstein said that the greatest secret in the world, the greatest invention was compound interest. And that tends to be a thing with banking and financial investing. But it's the same thing. If you have $5 and you made $1, now you have $6. You invest that $6, you might make $8. You invest that $8, you might make, 16, because you're putting a bigger part of that money back into that investment. So that means you're gonna make more profits. So that whole notion of compounding. And then the last thing was, get competent financial advice. Just don't put your money anywhere. Okay, and a lot of that too has to do with. And I tell my students this. They'll ask me, like, so how do I get that information? The first place you get that information is by reading. It's by you saying, okay, I need to learn these things, and of course, You find ways, find people who might know things, but the thing at the foundation is having a solid education. That's why I tell students all the time, you need to learn how to read. You need to know math, because if you know these things, then as you're reading financial business about investing and things like that, you have a foundation of literacy to build your knowledge upon, right? So I talked about this, how he now became the richest man because of what he did for himself, and then what he was able to do for Algamish, and then now he tells his stories to Kobe Ben Seer and their friends, and then he says, okay, listen, in summation, I'm going to share with you the 7 cures for a lean purse. Okay, 7 cures for a lean purse. Lean purse meaning empty pockets, right? So this is the cure for having empty pockets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all 7 of them, and then going through all 7 of them, I'm going to kind of read to you the section of the book of how Arkad said it. So it's very biblical type language. It's from 1926, and I can tell that George S. Clason was trying to write this in that language that people could connect to, especially seeing if it's, during that era, a lot of people read the Bible, right? So the first cure, start thy purse to fattening, okay? And what that means is this: pay yourself using the skills you already have, okay? Have a job. People, this is one of the things that's is very interesting, because people don't realize that that your wealth can come from something that you already know. It's just about how to monetize that thing. So a good example, Colonel Sanders, KFC. He became wealthy later in life. I think he was already past 60, but he could fry chicken really good. He worked frying chicken for other people. And then he was like, I'm here frying chicken for everybody else for their restaurants. Why can't I just actually do my own? So what did he do? He built a nest egg. He found some investors, and he opened his own chicken restaurant and was frying his own chicken, KFC and Kentucky Fried Chicken. But that was a skill he had. It wasn't like he tasted some chicken and was like, oh my God, this is amazing chicken. I'm going to hire you to cook chicken for me. He was the one. It was the Colonel's secret recipes. That was his, but it applies to everything else. If you're really good at like cutting hair, you could eventually have a barbershop and have a string of barbershops. It's all about what you do with your skills. So sometimes, and maybe your job doesn't gear towards that. Then develop a skill. Very, very important. So he says here, you can see that there are many trades and labors at which men may earn coins. Each of the ways of earning is a stream of gold, from which the worker doth divert from his labors a portion of his own to his own purse. So he's saying, while you're doing that work, okay, stop putting money to the side, whatever that thing is. So even if the job itself is not a job that you're even interested in, stop putting the money to the side. Okay, put whatever you can put to the side, and still start to develop that skill. Okay. It says, for every 10 coins thou place it within thy purse. Take out but use for use but 9. Okay? So again, keep 10. If you have 10, you can use 9, keep 10 at minimum. That purse will start to fatten at once, and its increasing weight will feel good in thy hand and bring satisfaction to your soul. And that's very true. When you start saving and you look in your account and you're like, damn, whoa. Maybe it starts with $100 in there. You're like, okay, it's only $100. When it's 500, you're like, oh wow, I have 500. When it's 1,000, you're like, whoa, I had 1,000, because you remember when you had only 100, or better yet, when you had 0. Okay, so 2 things here in this space is work. Have a skill, preferably that you could work, you could earn a living off of, and save. And the other thing too, you might not have the idea yet for what you want to do, but still save, because when that time comes, you have that nest egg, you have that foundation to build upon that investment or that business idea you may have. Number 2, Control thy expenditures. I think that's very simple. Okay, keep your expenses low. He says, what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our income unless we protect to the contrary. Listen, I can attest to that. I think we all can. When you're making $4 an hour, maybe you were doing good. You were cool. When you made $10 an hour, guess what happened? You were still cool, but you're still not having enough money because you're going from the $4 an hour lifestyle to a $10 an hour lifestyle. Then when you're making $30,000 a year, $40,000, then what happens? Our expenses tends to like grow with our consumption. Or better yet, our consumption expenses tends to grow with our earnings. So he's saying you got to cut that down. Okay, he says, confuse not the necessary expenses of thy desires. Study thoughtfully thy accustomed habits of living. Like budget. Figure out, what am I spending my money on? Okay. Herein may be the most often found certain accepted expenses. Okay. That may wisely be reduced or eliminated. So he's saying when you study your expenses, you're going to see the things that you might have been accepting, like, oh, I need this. But then if you really look at it, you might be like, wait a minute, do I need to have that Netflix? Because I don't ever watch Netflix. Do I need to have this other thing over here? But I don't ever use it. I don't ever use that thing. Like cutting back those things that are not necessary so that you have extra monies to put to the side. And that's what it is. Not extra money to spend on something else, extra money to put to the side. So now, number 3, make thy gold multiply. Okay, invest what you save. So some of us might say, okay, invest what? I mean, I don't know nothing about stock market. I don't have enough money for real estate. It could be as simple as saying, okay, I'm going to go to the bank and open a money market account, and until I figure out what I'm going to do with this money, that 1 point whatever percent is better than 0%. Okay, keeping that money in my house where I know it's there and the temptation is there. Maybe sticking that money inside. I'm going to go get a what do you call this? Certified deposit, where I put money in there for a certain period of time and they give me some interest so that money can keep growing. Like, you got to make sure your money is always doing something. Okay, keep it in the house under the mattress is not, or put it in a shoebox. I know people who do that. That's not making your money work for you. Okay, you can start small it can even be, like I said, a savings account with very low interest rate. But as time goes on, as you're building your knowledge, then you will find other things to do. You might say, okay, I'm going to study the stock market. Maybe I'm going to get some mutual funds. But the thing is this: your money should always be working for you. It should not be sitting there idle. Okay. It says the goal that we may retain from our earnings is but the start. The earnings it will make shall build our fortune. So the return from your investments is what is going to be the foundation of your fortune. To put each coin to laboring that it may produce its kind. Put that money, invest it so you can make more money. So this is very repetitive, just telling you over and over again, but you gotta make more money, right? A stream of wealth that shall flow constantly into thy purse. An income that continueth to come whether thou work or travel. And that's the thing, that's should be the goal. Your money should be in a place where no matter what happens, it's coming back to you. Okay? Like no matter what happens, it's making more money. And preferably if you're sleeping. I'll tell you this. Like right now, the most volatile thing out there is Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency is super volatile right now. I have very little bit of money in that space because it's crazy. But I'll tell you, when I look in there and I'm like, okay, it's $1,000 in here. Then I look in there the next day, it's $1,500. Look the next day, it's $3,000. Listen, that's money that's being made without me having to do anything, because I put it in that space. I'm not saying buy crypto because it's very super volatile and that's a decision you have to make for yourself. But the thing is, your money should be, eventually the goal should be for your money to be making money and you not have to do much of anything because it's in the right place. And it could be a business. It could be investing in whatever is out there that interests you. But that's the goal. Number 4, it says, guard thy treasures from loss. Okay, something that's very, very important. And this is one thing I would say to really pay attention to. Protect your investments from loss. Gold in a man's purse must be guarded with firmness, else it be lost. Is it wise to be intrigued by larger earnings when that principle may be lost? So, is it wise, for example, Arkad, when he went to his boy, the bricklayer, and he was like, listen, we can make a lot of money right now. I know somebody who got some jewels I can go buy. So he put all his money and give to this man. This man went and bought the jewelry, came back, it was all glass. So with that being said, was it worth it for him to do that? Okay. Was it worth it for him to put himself in that position? Yeah. So to that question, algorithm says, I say not. The penalty of risk is probable loss. So if you do something that's way too risky, more likely you're gonna lose your money. It says, study carefully. I'm gonna say it again. Study carefully before parting with thy treasure, each assurance that it may be safely reclaimed. Okay, so study. Before you part with it, just make sure that each assurance, every guarantee or non-guarantee, whatever, that you understand what it is. Okay, because you want to make sure if you're going to make money, how is it going to happen? What is the ups or downs of making this? How risky or not risky? How much are you willing to win or lose in that situation? Okay, but that means you have to study it. Again, it says here, lastly, be not misled by thine own romantic desires to make wealth rapidly. Don't get caught up with trying with those get rich quick schemes. Okay, so protect your investments. Make wise investments. Sometimes it's better to go slow than to jump into something completely. Okay, but once you lose it, it's gone. Then you got to start all over again, like Arkad did. Okay, we're almost there. Number 5, make thy dwelling a profitable investment. I'm going to tell you this. This is one of the things that I've always heard growing up, and yes, it's now in my older age, and I'm like, okay, that's actually does make sense. It says here, so it's really about invest in a home, own your own home. I recommend that every man own the roof that sheltereth him and his. Nor is it beyond the ability of any well-intentioned man to own his own. Okay, if you want to own a home, you can do it. That's what he's saying. Okay, you have to have the intention behind it. When the house be built, thou canst pay the moneylender with the same regularity, I can't even talk, as thou didst pay the landlord. So he's saying, when you buy a house, people are like, man, it's a lot, but you were paying rent, right, to a landlord. So we're not paid the rent to the bank, knowing that at the end of the time frame, the house is yours. Okay, so let me see. I lost my line here. So it says, when the house be built, that can because each payment will reduce that indebtedness to the moneylender. A few years will satisfy his loan. So again, I'm pretty sure you've all heard this. Why would I pay to a landlord when I could pay myself? And even though you're not paying yourself, you're paying the bank, but technically speaking, the equity that's just building your property belongs to you. Okay, that's for you. So again, make your dwelling an investment. And for some people, there's people out there who are like, no, I don't want to buy a house to live in. I'd rather live in this apartment with its doorman and everything else. But they also still buy a house and rent it out. So even if you choose not to buy the house for you to live in, you could buy a house and rent it out. And guess what? Now you're a landlord. So it could go both ways if you think about it. But the thing too is all about that building equity. But now all of a sudden now your money is making money for you, because if you think about it, you're going to use your money to buy that house, and now that house is building equity. So your money is now compounding in that house. Number 6, ensure a future income. So what it's saying is invest for retirement. And this is one of those things that's very hard, especially when you're young and you're not really thinking about that, and you're like, oh, I got time. Trust me, we don't all have time. Time is a very difficult thing. He says, it behooves a man to make preparations for a suitable income in the days to come, when he is no longer young, and to make preparations for his family should he be no longer with them, to comfort us and support them. This lesson shall instruct thee in providing a full purse when time has made thee less able to earn. Eventually, we all get to a place where we can't do what we're doing today. Okay? Provide in advance for the needs of thine growing age and the protection of thy family. Yeah. And this really is like it covers a lot of things. Also, something that we should all become very familiar with is insurance as well. So we're talking about investing, building a nest egg, but also having insurance. Because what happens if something happens to you in the moment that's sudden? How's your family going to fare without you in that immediate time? So again, you want to compound your money from the beginning, build a nest egg, but also have those safety nets to catch you and your family if something goes wrong. And then number 7, which should have been number 1 to me, increase thy ability to earn. Learn new skills to increase your income. And that's something that we're always learning, but I don't think we're always learning the right things, or we're paying attention to what we should learn and add to our tool belt. It says, the more of wisdom we know, the more we may earn. That man who seeks to learn more of his craft shall be richly rewarded. Always do the affairs of a man change and improve, because keen-minded men seek greater skill, that they may better serve those upon whose patronage they depend. Therefore, I urge all men to be in the front rank of progress, and not to stand still, lest they be left behind. That is very powerful, and this is really about education. I'm not talking about bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and any of that. I'm just talking about just knowing what you do and being an expert at what you do. So a lot of times, what happens is it's funny because I have friends of mine who are big into the stock market, and it's funny. The one thing that's interesting about not funny, but something that's interesting is they know their stuff. I know people who say, oh, somebody told me about the stock, and they threw their money into that stock and they lost everything. But then those who are day traders or they're always reading about this company and that company, what's happening. They know who the CEO is, what's happening, with the downturns in the market and everything else, and they make their decision to invest based on what's happening. For example, Warren Buffett, he made his whole entire empire off of investing. Okay, but they say this man reads. The majority of his day is reading. So if you have an 8-hour work day, 6 hours of that day he's reading. He's constantly building knowledge. He's reading papers. He's reading financial sheets. He's always reading. Think about this. No matter what you do in this life, people always assume that there's certain I can't go anywhere with this job. I'll tell you this. Tell me a job that out there you think that wealth cannot be built from, and I'll show you a job that you can build wealth from. Because every job means that you're working for somebody. Every job means there's money being made from that thing, and somebody's getting paid from the work you're doing. So think about it that way. If you master that work and master that business, then there's a good chance you might become a boss yourself, hiring people to do what you were doing, making somebody else rich. But a big part of that is you gotta learn it. Somebody says, okay, if you work at the Gap and you're at the cash register, if you spend enough time at the Gap and you become a manager, and then you say, you know what, I'm going to take some business classes, and then you move to another company and you're still in that line of retail and fashion or whatever the case is, you could become CEO of your own fashion brand or a fashion company because you start from the bottom and you learn the business. If you're a trash man, you might say, all I do is move trash around. But I guarantee you there's a commissioner for sanitation, right? How did they get their job? If you think about every job that's out there, no matter how low you are, there's somebody on top of that mountain who's benefiting from the work that you're doing. And that's what he's saying. No matter what it is, master it. Engage in those skills. And if there's something that you don't want to do, then find something that you want to do and learn it and understand it and make it the foundation of your knowledge base, because you will build your wealth from it. Guaranteed. But the question is this: are you willing to put the time in? Nothing as you've heard from me thus far equates to nothing equates to, okay, this is how you're gonna make money in the next year. This is how you're gonna make money in the next 3 months or whatever. No, not at all. Everything you're doing takes time, but you have to have the knowledge base and the foundation to build to that place, hands down. And so let me just go over the 7 cures for lean purse. So number 1, pay yourself first using the skills that you already have. Which is funny though. But now, you know what? Now I think about, I'm going to keep 7 at 7 because 7 and 1 are connected back together again. So again, number 1, pay yourself first using the skills you already have. Number 2, keep your expenses low. Number 3, invest what you save. Number 4, protect your investments from loss. Number 5, invest in the home. Own your own home, or I would even say own a home. But you don't have to necessarily live in there, but a home can be a good investment for a return and for compounded return and equity building. Number 6, invest for retirement. Have a plan. Start building a plan for what happens when you're no longer able to work, or better yet, or not even better yet, because it's not better yet. But if worse, something happened to you and you're not around, like what is going to be the security for your family? Number 7, increase. I was going to read the biblical wording. Number 7, learn new skills to increase your income. So look at this. Number 7, learn new skills to increase your income. And number 1 said what? Pay yourself using the skills you already have. So if you already have skills, you should be learning new skills and building upon those skills to increase your income. Learning is all part of it. If you have skills, you've learned it somewhere. And if you want to make more money, you got to learn skills. Okay. But the one connecting thing through all of this is time. Okay. Time. It's going to take time. But the thing is this, that time goes by really quickly. You know, if you start today and tell yourself, okay, listen, for the next year, I'm going to do this, then let's see where you are at the end of the year. And right now it's the perfect time. It's January 2021. Okay. Your first paycheck, 10%. The next paycheck you get, 10% of it. And I would even tell you this, not even 10% of the net, 10% of the gross. So what did you earn before they took taxes and everything else? So if you made $700 before taxes, pull out $70 and put it to the side. Put it into a bank account. Get one of those internet accounts where there's no bank you can go to. So for you to get the money out, it's a lot of work. That's what I do. And then you put the money in there. After a month, after 2 months, you're gonna have $140. After 4 months, you're gonna have $280. If you had nothing in your bank account now you have $280. By the end of the year, guess what you're gonna have? You're gonna have $700. So you literally put aside a month of your income to the side. If you're and think about it in 2 years, in 3 years, and maybe in that time, that $700 might be the beginning of a small business that you might start. Okay, but you gotta start somewhere, and you have to expect that you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna fail. You know, hopefully you don't fail, but more likely you will fail. But the key here is not give up. Arkad did not give up. The first time he spent his money on dumb stuff. Second time he gives money to somebody and made a bad investment and was back to zero again. The next time he made a profit. It was 3 years in. It was his 5th year when he was able to be like, okay, I'm doing good. I'm not where I want to be. I'm doing good. And then an opportunity came his way. The guy who mentored him says, "Come work with me as a partner. Don't come work for me. Come work with me as a partner." And from there, he establishes himself as the richest man in Babylon. Okay, so some of you might be thinking this is the end of the book. It's not. There's a little bit more to come. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave you with 3 questions, something for you to think about. So the first thing is this. Arkad's advice seems unbelievably simple, but most people find it incredibly hard to follow. Why do you think this is the case? So Bonseer, Kobe, and a bunch of dudes went to go talk to Arkad, and this is his advice that he gave. But I'm pretty sure that some of you, if not all of you who were here, at some point in time have heard these exact same advice. So I'm gonna ask, a little participation here because I see there's quite a few people here who are listening to this. If you've ever heard any of these things that I said in some kind of format, just let me know in the comments. Okay, there's a little delay here, so it might take a second for you to hear me say this, but do me a favor and just let me know. Engage me. Have you heard these things before? If you have you been able to apply them? And if not, why? Why is it so hard to apply? And I can tell you, there's a lot of these things that it took me a while to be able to apply, and some of them I'm still struggling to apply. Because it takes time. So why? Have you been able to? And if not, why not? And why not wait for a response for that one? I'm going to go to the next one. The next question. It says, Arkad's advice is restated several times in different ways throughout the book. Does the repetition help drive the point home, or is it merely being a dead horse? And that's one thing I noticed, and you'll notice about in this book. The same thing is said over and over and over again, but I think it's kind of like the Bible. You can go from the Old Testament to the New Testament. You're going to hear the same stories, different characters, but very similar stories. And the repetition in itself starts to solidify in your head. And I think that's one of the things that that's very interesting about this book, and makes it very hard to forget. But the question now is, how do you apply it? Are you going to apply it? Are you actually going to put it into play? If you put it into play, I'm over here shifting out of the screen. Here we go. If you put it into play, you'll benefit. If you don't put it into play, you won't benefit. But again, why is it so hard? And again, I want you. And then lastly, it says, discuss the wisdom behind the 7 cures for a lean purge. Do you think they can be successfully implemented? I'm going to tell you this. Yes, they can. 100%. Question is this: Are you actually willing to put it into play? But I'll tell you this. My sister shared this piece of wisdom with me last end of last year about 1%. Start with 1%. Start with one step, and that one step is that 10%. Put that 10% to the side. Start there. And like the PDF is in the descriptions. Download it. Read it to yourself over and over again. Start with that 10% and see where you go. See where you are in 6 months. Are you able to save 10% of your income for 6 months? Okay. If all you can do is save your money till the end of the year and see where you stand at the end of the year, I guarantee you at the end of the year, listen, the universe, God, conspires for your success, especially if you're doing something that's noble. Okay. And in this case, putting money to the side and saving and trying to build wealth is a noble thing, but you have to start with actually putting into effect the rule of saving. So, but yeah, what did I do? So that's it for this section. I'm assuming no one responded, so I'm assuming no one wants to put themselves out there. But it's okay. I do appreciate you being here in this space and engaging in this conversation, in this dialogue. And next week we're going to continue. And next week we're going to go into a little bit more depth and ideas around how do you really put this into place, and how do you really move forward in building wealth. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for indulging me in just the space. Let me see right here. I do not want to mess up your name, Zaire. So Zaire, and I do apologize if I said that wrong. It says it's a great book. I'm going to purchase it and use it to help me. And yes, it's a great book. And I shared this before. I think I've bought this book like 4 times already. Each time I've given it away, and I actually have a copy in my office. And luckily I was able to find the PDF version. So the PDF version is really in the description, so you can actually click on the link in the description and download it. And then from there, if you buy the book, but definitely read it. It's a great read, and it's definitely a lot of wisdoms in there. And again, thank you so much for your time, everyone. And let me see here. And I guess it's time for me to bid you good night, and hopefully tomorrow morning we'll wake up to a better country than we left today. I'm just waiting for today to be over and done with. And hopefully our Congress and senators and they do the right thing and move us forward into the future. So again, with that being said, thank you so much. Do me a huge favor, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, peace.